Hi guys, I'm Jessie of Crochet by Jessie. Welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing something that I've been meaning to do for a really long time. If you follow me on TikTok, you'll see that some of my most popular videos on that platform are me talking about Mosaic Crochet, about how it's different from Tapestry Crochet, why I love Mosaic Crochet specifically. And a lot of you guys have asked for me to highlight the differences between Tapestry Crochet and Mosaic Crochet, so I thought I would make a video to do that for you. This video is going to highlight what I think are the main differences, and I'm also going to talk about personal differences which I have found. People may agree with them, may disagree. So there's going to be quite a range of differences that I will highlight. And by no means am I saying which one is better than the other one. I have my favorite personally, but I'm going to kind of talk about the final results, what type of crochet is better for what specific project, all of that kind of stuff. So with all of that being said, let's get into today's video. The first difference that we are going to be talking about is specifically going to be going into colour use and yarn use. And what I mean by this is I'm going to be referring to how much yarn or how many types of yarn, different colours are used at the same time, or if it's used one at a time, and how that impacts both forms of crochet. With Tapestry Crochet, you tend to have quite a few different colours that are all attached to the project all at once, depending on how complex a project you're going with. I have done a few myself where I think I've used maybe six colours, I want to say, at the same time. And because of that, there's so much going on, and it does mean for the most part that you don't really have loose ends to weave in, but it's a lot of colours to work with at the same time. And I know that that can necessarily, well, it's not necessarily the case for every project, because you may have a tapestry that maybe uses 2 colours, because I've done that as well, which is a lot more manageable, but I find that I'm a very messy crocheter. So the least amount of yarn that I can work with is the best, because if it can get tangled, it will get tangled with me. Mosaic Crochet, on the other hand, only uses one colour at a time. So for example, if you're using a project that has 2 colours, let's say you've got like an outline and you've got the detailing of the design and then a background colour, like this one here for example, you're only going to be using one colour per row. So because of that, you're not going to have to worry about the loose ends, you're not going to have to worry about your yarn getting tangled as much. I will say though that you do have to deal with a lot more loose ends that you do have to weave in or do a border for. So I acknowledge that although you don't have loose ends or things to weave in during the project and it won't get tangled, you do have more work in the sense of loose ends with it. I will also say that if you want to go for some slightly more complex patterns, then you might do a colour change during the row. So for this project here, for example, which is my spring crochet along, which is just finished, that project, for the flowers specifically, the petal section, I changed the colour during the row for that. But for the most part, you don't really need to with Mosaic Crochet. It's personal preference. If you want to make it more complicated, then you can do. But equally, the design would look really good if the flowers were all the same colour, and with that design, you then wouldn't have to change the colour for the row. The second difference between Tapestry Crochet and Mosaic Crochet are the types of stitches that are actually used in these forms of crochet. With Tapestry Crochet, you tend to just focus on single crochet. There's not going to be a lot of differentiation in the stitches because it's not necessary for there to be, because the way it's done, if you were to chop and change between different types of stitches, it wouldn't work. The design wouldn't be clear, it would probably end up wonky, it would maybe be textured in a way that wasn't very pleasant either. So yeah, Tapestry Crochet is just single crochet. In comparison, Mosaic Crochet, specifically overlay Mosaic Crochet, which is what I do, you just do a single crochet and a double crochet. So it's not like you're doing loads of different stitches, but very importantly, you do have 2 different types of stitches that you focus on. So the reason you have the single crochet and you have the double crochet is because the double crochets in the overall design drop down to the previous row of the same colour that you work with, and you're essentially hiding parts of certain colours. And then when you choose to reveal the colour, what you choose to reveal is how you build the design into the work. So it's kind of I'd say it's like a step ahead. You have to lay out the foundations ahead for the design. Whereas with Tapestry, because you're just doing the single crochet, you see the design develop as you're crocheting it. Mosaic Crochet, you kind of have to wait a little bit and then you slowly see the design starting to form. And yeah, so they both are fairly similar, and there's only one stitch that's different between them, but the way that stitch, the double crochet, is used, you're going to get such a different result. The third difference that I'm going to talk about is just what I have noticed aesthetically when it comes to tapestry crochet and mosaic crochet. And I would say that overall, I think that mosaic crochet has a slightly crisper design layout overall. The reason I say that is because the way it's done, it's in a far more kind of pixelated way overall. So with tapestry, because of the single crochets that you're doing, it's hard to describe. I think you've got maybe more flexibility in what kind of designs you can do, but I don't think they're quite as crisp and quite as outlined in the same way that mosaic crochet designs are. And honestly, it really depends on what kind of result you want for it. But if you want results that are going to be a little bit more clear, a little bit more defined, and you like a slightly pixelated version, I'd say overall with designs, then you should definitely go down the route of mosaic crochet. But then if you want to have more color changes, more of a detailed overall design, then tapestry can be really great as an alternative for that. The next difference between tapestry crochet and mosaic crochet is the thickness that you end up with and the texture that you end up with once your projects are done. So I will say that tapestry crochet ends up for the most part being a lot thinner overall, and it's just because you're only really working with yarn at one time, with one specific yarn, whereas with overlay mosaic crochet you kind of end up with like a double thickness because you have a row which you end up hiding behind the double crochet. So it ends up a lot more thicker and robust, I would say overall, which depending what your project in mind is, then that's good, but maybe you would prefer it to be a little bit thinner, which is why tapestry can be really good in that regard. As well as that, I will say that I find that mosaic crochet is maybe a bit softer to the touch because the overall tension of your project is a little bit looser, whereas what I've seen with tapestry is a lot more rigid and kind of set in place, which again is really good depending on what project you want to use it for. I just thought it'd be quite cool to actually get to show you guys the most recent mosaic crochet top that I literally finished yesterday. I ended up using a mix between a cotton and acrylic yarn, but because it was quite thin, it has still worked up really nicely. But this is what I mean when I say that I think mosaic crochet is really good as wearables, well, for wearables, sorry, because yeah, there's so much that you can do with it. And I was mosaic crocheting in the round as well, so it's really nice. I haven't had to worry about attaching the overall top because I made it like a tube top first, just continued, and then added these straps on after. I also wanted to show you guys this project that I'm working on. I'm actually doing a cushion cover currently. Only the front part of the cushion is going to be in mosaic crochet, but I wanted to show you guys what the back of this project looks like as well. So this is what the project looks like. Essentially, it's like a negative of what the front part of the design looks like. So you can still see the cat silhouette here, but then obviously this is the right side for it to be. The reason I wanted to show you guys what the back of an overlay mosaic crochet project looks like is because I just wanted to do another comparison of the aesthetic and overall appearance of projects when it's tapestry crochet or mosaic crochet. And if you are a very, very talented tapestry crocheter, you can end up with essentially a completely reversible pattern where either side is completely refined, neat, looks exactly how it's meant to do, and sometimes you can't even tell what side is meant to be the finished side of the design to show. Whereas with overlay mosaic crochet, I will admit that you have very much got the design side and then the other side. And that's not an issue at all depending on the project, but that is just another thing to note when looking at the differences, that if you want a completely reversible project, then you are going to want to go with tapestry crochet instead of mosaic crochet. The next comparison that we're going to look at with both tapestry crochet and mosaic crochet is which one is more beginner friendly. So I would personally say, as long as you're sticking to fairly simplistic designs overall, whether it is tapestry or mosaic crochet, I would probably say tapestry crochet purely because the chart isn't going to be as difficult to read. You're only focusing on one type of stitch. So I do feel like because of that, you are going to end up having an easier time if you are a little bit newer to crochet. I will say mosaic crochet, if you've got the basics, if you're happy with single crochet, happy with double crochet, and then again you go to a more easier pattern overall and you don't make it more difficult for yourself than it needs to be, it does look a lot more complex than it actually is. But I am aware that when it comes to the difficulty levels of it, when it comes to reading the chart, understanding all of it and knowing the stitches, I would say that tapestry crochet is just a little bit more beginner friendly than mosaic crochet. The next point of comparison is going to be the accessibility of Tapestry Crochet and Mosaic Crochet. I will say that I do think that Tapestry Crochet is a lot more accessible in the crochet community and just out there on the internet for everyone. I think Tapestry Crochet has been around and known of for a lot longer. I think it is easier to generate designs overall as well. And there are a lot of free designs out there. There's a lot of video tutorials out there, and there's just a lot of awareness. Whereas with Mosaic Crochet, I still would say it's relatively unknown in the grand scheme of all of crochet, and it's not been out there for a really long time in the whole history of crochet as well. And even more so, there are not a lot of designs out there. There's still quite a lot, but when it comes to learning it and getting those beginner friendly ones and having it spoken through or explained, it is not quite as accessible, I would say, as Tapestry Crochet. I'm working on making it more accessible. I've been doing a lot of my designs. I've been doing video tutorials on here as well as free pattern charts. So I'm working on making it a lot more accessible to you guys. But as it stands, definitely Tapestry Crochet is more accessible at the moment. The last point of comparison is going to be another fairly subjective one. And it's going to be which of the two forms of crochet currently is more popular. And I would say, although for me, I am a Mosaic Crochet girl through and through, I will say that Tapestry Crochet is more popular at the moment. And I think that is due to the accessibility of it. I think it is because it's a lot more out there in the community. People know what it is. I feel like 9 times out of 10, if you speak to a crocheter, they are more likely to know what Tapestry Crochet is instead of Mosaic Crochet. And there's nothing wrong with that, because Mosaic Crochet, it's growing, it's becoming more popular, it's becoming more well known. So I don't necessarily think it is always going to be this way, but as it stands, I do think Tapestry Crochet is currently the most popular format of crochet between the two. That is it for today's video where we're comparing Mosaic Crochet and Tapestry Crochet. Let me know in the comments below if you happen to do one form of this crochet, if you do both, and if you've never even heard of either of them, which one you think you're more likely to do after hearing the comparison that I have presented today. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you've watched this video but you do not happen to be subscribed, then please do consider subscribing as well as pressing the bell to be notified when my next video is up. If you haven't seen me before, I crochet a lot. I do a lot of crochet tutorials, videos like this. This channel is a little bit of everything and anything crochet related. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!